Hello, everyone. So, this is going to be another episode of the series Motivational Monday Live with your host, Aura Elena Martinez. And this week's episode is entitled, quote unquote, Life Isn't Fair. Now, before I start with this week's topic, I want to start by introducing myself if this is the first time that you are watching this series, and share with you a little bit about what motivated me to start this series, Motivational Monday Live. So once again, my name is Orlana Martinez, and I'm a self-discovery and empowerment coach, helping women gain total clarity in their purpose so that they can wake up to daily fulfillment and certainty. Now, purpose is not to be limited to just a calling. And that's because you living your most purposeful life consists of you also enjoying great levels of mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, and why not even financial well-being. And the reason for this is because every part of you and your life matters. Everything in your life is connected. Every part of you is connected, right? And what motivated me to even start this series, Motivational Monday Live, and I want to clarify, I am not here to motivate you. I am here to transform you. That's right, transform you. And like I said in the very first episode of the series, that's because motivation is very fleeting. You cannot rely on motivation. However, when you go for your motivation, for your transformation, there I am with motivation, your transformation will motivate you. Your transformation will inspire you. And Monday for many tends to be that day of the week where some are like, oh my God, the start of another week, right? They start feeling that anxiety, right? And if you find yourself in a position where you're not liking Mondays, you're feeling anxious the moment is Sunday night, you are not enjoying your job, you're just not enjoying life, let that be a sign that something needs to change. Let that be your sign, because you are not designed to be in constant frustration, constant anxiety, constant anything. That is not how you are designed to live. It's just not. It's just not. And also, it is my intention that with this series, you get more and more connected to your truth, more and more connected to the truth of who you are. And one thing I want you to remember, that you are abundance, you are love, you are energy, you are prosperity. Those things are truth, regardless of what the outer world may be telling you. Regardless of what the outer world may be telling you. And it is also my desire that Mondays become that day of the week that you look forward to, because you know that you're going to be filled up mentally, emotionally, spiritually with truths. Truth that gets you closer to your own truth. And also for you to lift your level of consciousness. Why is lifting your level of consciousness so important? Because the more you lift your level of consciousness, the more you're going to see things differently in your life. The more you're going to see yourself differently. The more you're going to be able to make better decisions for yourself, right? If you're on the first floor looking at the street, everything seems big, right? The car seems big. The buildings seem big. Anybody that is your same height, they're going to see on an equal playing field. It just feels overwhelming, perhaps. But if you are on the 10th floor and you're looking outside, things start looking different. The cars are no longer huge. They start looking smaller, right? The buildings don't look as tall and people look really, really small. The same thing with your level of consciousness. What once seemed so big will start seeming small for you. So you start seeing things differently. And trust, it is very important, your level of consciousness, because that's going to dictate what you allow and the messages you receive and how much you're able to understand and really get in a deep level what it is that you're listening to. Sometimes the reason why we don't get things is because we're not at the level of consciousness that allows us to really receive that message. And once again, this week's topic is entitled Life Isn't Fair, in quotation marks. And there's a valid and powerful reason why I want to talk about this. It's already spring, even though it doesn't feel like spring in some parts of the US. And in some parts of the world, it isn't spring, right? But here where I'm at in New York, it is spring. I was surprised to see that in Salt Lake City last week. It was snowing and it was spring. Anyways, I was there last week, so this is why I know. Anyways, it is already spring and it's time to do some spring cleaning, right? We tend to do spring cleaning during the spring. By the way, I'm going to be talking about spring cleaning next week, and it's not what you're thinking. So you're going to want to watch next week's episode. And what I'm going to be talking about today is one of those things that is something that needs to be cleansed out of your life, right? And this whole belief of life isn't fair is one of the biggest things that keep people so stuck in mediocrity. I want you to know that, okay? And I'm going to be sharing a very vulnerable part of my life, and that is my childhood. So, for those that may be thinking, well, she can't talk about this topic because what does she know? She hasn't gone through X, Y, Z. I'm going to shut that down right now very quickly. I'm going to shut it down very quickly, right? And I'm going to tell you the following, and I want you to hear the love and feel the love with which I'm saying this, okay? And the reason why I want to say this is because I want you to wake up and lift your level of consciousness. And the reason why it's so important for you to wake up is because the more awake you are, the more you're able to really appreciate life in a deeper level, and the more you're able to enjoy and experience life more fully. Whenever you allow yourself to fall into cynicism, full-blown cynicism, you hurt yourself without even realizing it. This is not to say that you don't question things. Of course, we need to be questioning things, et cetera, et cetera. But too much cynicism, the reason why it hurts you is because cynicism doesn't allow you to open your mind, to open your heart, and really receive what you're meant to receive. It doesn't allow it. You never know what's going to come out of someone else's mouth that can transform you, that can grow you, that can have an impact on you. You just never know. Cynicism can keep you away from the treasure that someone else has for you. You just never know. Because think about it, if you're full of doubts, you're going to block whatever you're meant to receive. Doubt blocks. Doubt blocks, okay? And I want you to know this, there's always something to learn from everyone. Always. There is something to learn from the rich person. There's something to learn from the poor person. There's something to learn from the person you like. There's something to learn from the person you do not like. There is something to learn from the saint. There's something to learn from the whore. Yes, I even dare to go there. There's something. The whole point is there's something for you to learn from everyone. Right? And when we allow our own filters to get in the way, we miss what we're meant to collect. So it's so important to be mindful of the filters. If you think, oh, because this person is this, that, I don't have nothing to learn from this person, you already created a filter that, of course, you're not going to learn nothing from that person because you already blocked it. So that person can be sharing gold and you just blocked it. Don't do that to yourself. There's always something to learn from every single person you meet. Okay, so it's very important that you become mindful of those filters. So going back to the vulnerable part of my life that I'm going to be sharing with you, which is my childhood. So for those that may be wondering, What does she have to share about her life that is vulnerable, right? That life isn't fair. Well, I used to live in that territory of life isn't fair for a few decades. I lived there for quite some time in that life isn't fair territory. My dad, let me just tell you this. I remember when he used to walk. He became wheelchair bound at the age of 32 because of a tumor that he had in his back. And I was only 8 when that happened to him. Okay. And when he used to walk, he was the sweetest, happy dad. He was the sweetest, happy dad. I still remember the last Easter that he used to walk when he took me out to buy the Easter basket and eggs. Still remember that. And then all of a sudden, we were just in and out, in and out, in and out from the hospital. And I still remember the last few times before him becoming wheelchair bound, he would just fall out of nowhere. He would just fall. He would stand and then fall. If he tried to walk, he would fall, as if his legs could not sustain the weight of his body. And it was then that the doctors realized that he had a tumor in his back that he can either keep in his back, but that he eventually will become quadriplegic, meaning lose the mobility from the neck down. He wouldn't be able to move his arms or his legs, or he could remove the tumor and become paraplegic, which means that you don't move from the waist down. Hello, Molly. How are you? So, of course, the idea of him becoming quadriplegic for the rest of his life terrified him. So my dad decided to remove the tumor and become paraplegic. Okay. So you can only imagine how he felt about life and himself after that event. And he was only 32. Out went happy dad and sweet dad, and in came angry dad. And I was only 8. And as an 8-year-old, I could not articulate nor fully understand what was going on. All I knew was that life had drastically changed, but I couldn't articulate. And I still remember at the time, and I was 8, that I would say, the hospital took my dad away. The hospital will take my dad away. And that was my way of saying that something had drastically changed, right? And there was one summer, I still remember this, where the elevator in the building did not work at all. And so we remained indoors the whole summer. The whole summer we remained indoors because we were always so united. And we will only go out if there was something that we needed to run an errand or something, but we would stay home. What an experience for such a young girl. Yeah, indeed. It was too much to really piece together and really understand what was going on, right? And so that was the start of me hating summer. I hated summer. And it was because of that one summer that none of us went out. And yes, it's life altering. You know when I started liking, not even loving, liking summer? The moment I became an adult, right? And that was also the start of me wanting to be any little girl except me. I wanted to be any little girl. I did not want to be me. And the moment you prefer to be anybody else other than yourself, guess what's going to happen to your self-esteem? It's going to go down. It's going to go down. So I know a thing or two about low self-esteem, trust, and lack of self-trust and lack of confidence. I get it. I get it. So at a very young age, I started believing that life isn't fair. I started believing life isn't fair. And I felt that it was being reinforced over and over again. It was being reinforced, and it was being reinforced. But what I didn't understand then is that it was being reinforced by myself as well, right? But I lacked the awareness at the time. This is why this topic of life isn't fair is very important for me to talk about, because trust, I get what it's like to live in that territory, and it's not a very good thing. And so I kept, thank you for the hearts. And so I kept carrying with me this belief into different areas of my life. And I managed to do well in life, right? I managed to do wonderful things, right? I say it in quotes because wonderful and do well, it's relative, right? Everybody has their own meaning of doing well and wonderful things and whatnot. Now, with the wisdom that I have, and mind you, I have so much more to learn, I can tell you that what I managed to do was survive, right? So I managed to get a nice job, right? I managed to learn several languages, great, okay. Managed to get a lot of weight off on my own for the most part. You don't have to do things on your own, by the way. Get help, because it took me years to lose weight. It didn't have to take that long. And then I really was able to shrink the weight the moment I hired a trainer and all that good stuff. Okay. So I want you to know this. You are not meant to survive. You are not meant to survive. You're meant to thrive. Okay? A lot of times we don't realize all we're doing is just surviving. Let me just survive this. No, you're meant to be thriving. And you're meant to be thriving in the way that you are meant to be thriving, not how society thinks you should thrive, not how your community thinks you should thrive, not how culture dictates you should thrive, not how your family thinks you should thrive. You are meant to thrive. Yes, I so get what you're saying. Yes, we're, we have been so conditioned to survive. Let me just get a job and pay the bills and, manage to save some money. Oh, let me put some money in my 401k. That's great and dandy, but if you think about it, if you really think about it, this is why I really want you to lift your level of consciousness. That's basically surviving. What about if your inner being wants something more, is craving more, wants more out of life, right? But your current reality, no, you're not supposed to, because whatever. No, you're meant to be thriving in however way that you are meant to be thriving. And this belief that life isn't fair, it puts you in survival mode. It puts you in survival mode, believe it or not. So, with this said, why is it imperative that you remove out of your system, out of your being, this notion that life is unfair? Because number one, it places you in victimhood. And I want you to stay with me because I'm going to be explaining how this works so that you can really get it and start analyzing or seeing in what way does this fit and how you can transform that within, okay? For as long as you believe that life is unfair, you're placing yourself as a victim. You really are. Everything will be happening to you instead of for you. All right? And that's because that's the way you're thinking. It's not that things are happening to you, right? It's that that's the lens from which you're seeing things. That's the lens from which you're seeing things. Find the more. Amen, sister. Yes. Yes. If I were to right now take these glasses off, and it's prescribed because I need prescription. I need to see, right? If I were to take these glasses off and put another pair of glasses with a different prescription, I'm not going to be able to see the same way. Right? And so life is the same way. The glasses that you decide to wear and the lens from which you're seeing it, that's how you're going to see life. Now, I want to clarify. This is not to say that you're going to ignore the bad things that happen, that you are going to make believe everything is roses and beauty. And no, it's not about that. It's not about that. But it's about me being mindful, how you decide to look at things, how you decide to perceive things, how you decide to think of things, how you decide to believe of things. Because how you're thinking and how you're feeling and how you're perceiving, that is going to dictate how you behave, whether you respond or react. Those are two different things, right? How you're going to feel about yourself, how you face things, it's going to dictate everything. It's going to dictate everything. Again, this is not to say that you're going to overlook any injustice, that you're going to make believe that everything is good and dandy. That's not to say any of that. However, if you don't adjust that lens, if you do not change the glasses that you are wearing, right? You cannot see the beauty of that situation. You just cannot. You just cannot. You cannot see what else can come out of that situation. You cannot give yourself the opportunity to see what you're really made of. One thing that I have to say that I'm grateful for my parents, right? My dad and my mom. When things got really rough, and I did not know then, I learned after my dad's passing that they didn't have any money saved. They had nothing. I still recall when my parents had to sell food in the street along with my uncle, right? They were selling food in the street and putting the money together. If my dad would have saw himself as a victim, I don't even want to imagine where we would be as a family. Do you get how important it is? The lens that you decide to look at things. It's huge. And I want you to know that you are so important. You are so valuable that someone else is impacted by the way you decide to look at your life, by the way you decide to look at yourself. And even if you don't have any kids, I don't have any kids, even if you don't have any kids, you have a relative, you have a family member, you have friends, you think that you're not impacting people? Of course you are. There are people that love you. There are people that are looking up to you. There are people that they are expecting to hear from you. You matter so much. I want you to get that. I want you to get that. Okay. So this is going to take me to the second point. The reason why it is imperative that you remove out of your system, out of your being, the notion that life is unfair is that number two, this belief prevents you from creating pearls. Pearls. Pearls are very expensive. I don't know if you saw the price of pearls. Aren't pearls pretty, right? Who wouldn't want pearls? Do you know how pearls are made up of? Thank you for the hearts. Do you know how pearls are made up of? They actually come from oysters, right? And oysters, in order to survive, they have to open their shell. But by opening their shell, they make themselves vulnerable for irritants to go inside. So this means that if a sand goes in, that's going to irritate it. It makes itself vulnerable, right? And so when a sand, say for example, goes inside the oyster, the way it deals with that sand is that it covers it with, I hope I'm saying this right because it's a French word, nacre, Nacre. It covers it with that and there forms the pearl. Who would have thought that an irritant would form something so beautiful and expensive as a pearl? Who would have thought, right? So just like that sand irritated that oyster, you're going to have things in your life that are going to irritate you, that are going to frustrate you, that are going to make you angry, that are going to make you think and believe and feel that life isn't fair. You're going to have those irritants. Whether that irritant can be something as small as perhaps a colleague at work, or probably work itself, or a family member, or any kind of injustice that you may be going through, or something not going your way. The list goes on and on. The list goes on. When you believe that life is not fair, you will allow these things to frustrate you longer than necessary. You're going to allow these things to make you more worried than necessary, perhaps create anxiety within you, right? Or weaken you in some way, or bring out the worst in you, or diminish your value. The way that an irritant can diminish your value, the example that comes to me is, say, for example, if you're with a partner that doesn't appreciate you or whatnot, right? If you let that irritant, which you shouldn't be allowing that kind of irritant or whatever, if you have that kind of irritant, it can diminish your value if you allow it to, right? If you allow it. Irritants, the irritants of life, they're not meant to do any of that. They're meant to grow you. They're meant to mature you. They're meant to educate you. They're meant to shape you. They're meant to move you forward. They're meant to strengthen you. Okay? But it cannot do any of this when you have that belief that life isn't fair. If you're saying it to someone else, and I want you to say, I want you to know this. The reason why I even share all of this is because the more we become aware of the impact of our words, of the impact of the conversations we have, of the impact of what's going on here in terms of what we say to ourselves, the impact, the more we're able to transform our life in ways that we're going to see that outer transformation that we seek. But the outer transformation that we seek starts first with that level of awareness that makes everything so crystal clear for you that you're like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do. This is why I'm bringing this up. So if you're saying to someone else, life isn't fair, that means that you have that as a belief. Yes, the impact is huge. Self-talk, words are so important. Indeed, Molly. Yes. Yes. And so if you are saying that out loud to someone, life isn't fair, that means you believe it. If you're saying it to yourself, that's an affirmation that you are saying to yourself over and over again. And that affirmation only strengthens in your mind. And it creates what I like to call a filter. If you think of a filter, what it does is that it allows certain things in, but at the same time, it is blocking other things out. So the filters, the inner filters that we have, it only allows what is convenient, what matches that. And anything that doesn't match, it just won't go through. So if your belief is that life isn't fair, guess what? Anything that matches that is going to go through you. Whatever that doesn't, even if you wish to believe it, it just can't, because you have that life isn't fair filter within you. And this is going to take me to point number 3. The third reason why it is imperative that you remove out of your system, out of your being, the notion that life is unfair is number 3. This belief will only allow you to listen and receive whatever suits where you are right now in life. I'm going to explain, so stick with me. You know that saying that misery loves company? This saying not only applies to when you're feeling miserable or frustrated or whatnot, this also applies to any belief that you may be having. Beliefs loves company. It does. If your belief in life is that life isn't fair, What kinds of conversations do you think you're going to be drawn to? You're going to be drawn to conversations where people talk about their problems all the time. I know everybody has problems, but if you're talking about that all the time, you got to start thinking, what is going on within me that I feel so drawn to this, right? You're going to be drawn to conversations where people talk about all the time world problems, all the time world problems. Everything that's going on around the world, according to the news, is enough to depress anybody, right? You're also going to be drawn to conversations that make you feel sorry, sorry for the person, sorry for this, sorry for that. It's very important to be aware of what you're drawn to. Very important. If your belief is that life isn't fair, what are you going to be drawn to when it comes to watching television or even looking at social media? You're going to be drawn to all the bad things that are going on all around the world, all the people that are complaining, right? All the controversy, or whatever negative, you're going to be drawn to this. Yes, so true. What you focus on, you help create. Not to say life is rainbows and butterflies, but if you focus on the negative, this is what you will see. Yes, indeed, indeed. And I'm going to say the following: what you watch, what you say, and what you're drawn to for the most part. This is the key word, for the most part. This does not mean that if you're looking at something that just happened in the news that is horrible once or twice or whatever. No, I'm talking about for the most part. Like if that's all you're looking at, that's all you're talking about, if that's for the most part what you're drawn to, that is not a reflection of the world. That is a reflection of you. Boom. I probably said something that sting, and I'm going to repeat it because if it sting, let it sting and try to figure out why does it sting, because anything that triggers you, it triggers you for a reason. It's there's something there to be paying attention to. I've learned to love triggers because it means that something within me needs to heal, something within me needs my attention. There's something there, there's something, right? What you watch, what you say, and what you feel drawn to, it's not a reflection of the world. It's a reflection of you. And the reason for this, I'm so glad you love this. Thank you for the hearts. The reason for this is because it is you that is deciding to watch that. It is you that is deciding to say that. That's coming out of your mouth, whatever words is coming out of your mouth, right? What you're drawn to, that's actually coming from you. That's not coming from the outside in, that's coming from the inside out. This is why I say that that's not a reflection of the world, that's a reflection of you. Okay? And so, this that I share, let it empower you, not limit you. Let it empower you. So, if you're in the territory of life isn't fair, get out of that territory once and for all because it's going to ruin you. And it's going to ruin your life. It's going to ruin whatever beauty is trying to come into your life, whatever opportunity is going to come out of your life. It's going to become a filter that is going to limit you because you're not going to allow the goodness. You're not going to allow what is meant to come to you, right? You're not, it's not going to allow you to see your potential, your beauty, your capacity. It's just not going to allow it. It's going to place you in victimhood. And it's going to prevent you from creating pearls in your life. So important. Listen, I share that vulnerable part of my childhood because if you're thinking, oh, it's easy for her to talk about life isn't, well, no, I get it. Trust, I get it. And I had to clean all of that up as an adult. It's a lot of cleaning up I needed to do, right? And there's nothing wrong if you too have a lot of cleaning up to do. Who doesn't, right? Who doesn't? And so If you are ready to remove, to forget removing. First, get the clarity that you need. The clarity as to what is getting in your way. The clarity as to what is the next step. The clarity as to what is your true purpose. And remember, purpose doesn't limit itself to just a calling. Like I said at the very beginning, you could be living your calling and still not be living your most purposeful life because for you to enjoy fully life, it's about you experiencing greater levels of emotional well-being, mental well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, even financial well-being. Yes, I include finances there because every part of you and your life matters. If you think that no part of you plays a role in who you are today and how much you are able to do, no, everything matters. Every part of you and your life matters. So if you're ready to transform an area of your life that has been stuck, by the way, if you know anybody that needs to listen to today's message, please share this video. You never know who needs to listen to this message right now that may be feeling and thinking, oh, life is not fair. I've just gone through this. I just lost this. You just never know. And this is the message that they need to listen to. So if you're ready to transform an area of your life, you're ready to become the version of you that your vision, that your desires, that your goals require of you. If you're ready to gain clarity as to what is that block that is standing in the way, you want to be able to see it crystal clear because I really go deep. I don't do none of this fluffiness, superficial thing. No, I go really deep. If you are ready to transform the blocks into stepping stones that takes you closer to the life that you desire, then I'm going to highly recommend that you schedule a clarity call. Just DM me and I can get you in the calendar. And in that call, we're going to go over where you are now, where you desire to be, what is needed to close that gap, and how I'm able to help you. You don't need to be spinning. You don't need to be confused. You don't need to be stuck in any area of your life. You don't need to be frustrated. Get the clarity that you need, transform the mindset, transform the emotion, transform within. Because I'm telling you, any outer transformation first requires an inner transformation. And with this said, it is my desire. It is my desire that you really allow this message to sink in. Because I'm telling you, I am telling you, this whole notion that life isn't fair, again, this is not to say that life isn't full of challenges. This is not to say that everything is rainbow and roses because it's not. It's not. It's not. Allow the words that are shared here to transform you and impact you in however way that really impacts you for the better. And again, with that said, it is my desire that you live life to the max the way you are destined to live. And until next time, bye for now.